Hello, everybody. This is a brief storm spotter training course that will go in conjunction with the thunderstorm course and the severe thunderstorm course. Now, if you haven't watched those, that's okay. This is a good overview of storm spotting in general. If you are younger, because some of these other courses are targeted to middle schoolers, and you would like to spot or you would like to report something to the Weather Service, please make sure you do that with your parents' permission and make sure that they are there with you when you do make that phone call or you do that social media post. We just want to make sure everybody's safe, having a good time, and can get us the information that we need. So let's go ahead and get started on this. What is the role of a skywarn spotter? We need your eyes in the field. We need you to tell us what's going on at the surface or what happened at the surface. Now, you may be watching this and thinking to yourself, but Lauren, you all are the experts. You're the meteorologist. You're supposed to tell us what's going to happen. Why do you need spotters for this? And I put this in here because people have legitimately asked me this. You're the meteorologist. Why do I need to tell you what's going on? Well, the biggest reason for that is we are sitting here in one spot in our office looking at these screens, right? In Tallahassee. We cover, though, all of Southeast Alabama, Southwest Georgia, the Panhandle, and the Big Bend, but we are sitting there in one spot looking at a computer screen. On top of that, if you watched the other videos about radar, the radar usually hits the storm anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 feet. Now, what do we know about tornadoes? They're on the ground. Wind damage is on the ground at 0 feet. So while we can see what's going on in the storm on radar and we try to estimate what's going to happen in, 5, 10, 15 minutes, we cannot see what's going on the ground. And that's why we need the ground reports from you all. Here's a little schematic of that radar image where you can see the radar sometimes will hit lower in the storm, sometimes higher in the storm, but either way, it is not sampling what it's doing to the trees on the ground. So what makes a good report? Time, event, location. What time it happened, what happened, and where it happened. Now, sometimes you may not have the time. Let's say you were coming home from soccer practice and you noticed a tree was down in your yard. That's okay. You can just let us know what the report is and where you're at, and sometimes we can estimate the time on our end. But if you do have a time, that would be great, and we may ask you for it sometimes if you call us. Here's a great report. At 4:05 p.m., I drove through golf ball size hail on I-10 near the Tallahassee exit 199. Hopefully, you didn't get a lot of damage from that, and hopefully, you called this in afterwards because we always, always, always want you to be safe when you're spotting or reporting. We don't want you to run out into the middle of a storm or anything to measure or pick up anything of the sort. If you don't know exactly how far away something is, say in this picture here, give us some, I don't know, some kind of idea of where you're at. I'm driving north through Tallahassee and I'm looking to my right. I'm driving east on I-10 and it's in front of me. Anything that can kind of give us a direction, because typically we know what storm you're looking at. If you tell me you're driving east on I-10 and there is a storm to your left or to your north, I can look at radar and generally see what storm that is. Make sure your descriptors actually describe what's happening. You could say house is totally destroyed, and we may think there's nothing left of it, like in the right picture. Now, don't get me wrong, the picture on the left is massive damage, and we'd want you to definitely report that and report it as pretty significant damage as well. But keep an idea of what you're saying. For example, if you say large tornado, we may think it's this, mile wide behemoth coming out of city, and we may make some decisions based on that, when really it may have just touched down and been a pretty small tornado. Now, don't get me wrong, tornadoes are very, very dangerous, even small tornadoes, and they definitely need to be reported. All large tornadoes start as small tornadoes, so this is still very dangerous. Just try to give us an idea of what you're actually seeing. What do you want to report to us? Well, obviously, any sort of tornadoes, funnel clouds, and wall clouds. And the severe storm PowerPoint did talk about the wall clouds a little bit. Make sure there's some sort of rotation with it, even if it's not on the ground yet. So even if it's just a funnel cloud, because it's a funnel cloud till it touches the ground, please tell us, because that could be a precursor, usually is a precursor for a tornado. I say usually because not every time, but that would help us potentially in a warning decision or, paying attention to the storm a little bit more. We want to know all of those kind of things. Any kind of damage you see, we want to know about. So, trees down, power lines down, trees snapped. We don't really need to know about small twigs and leaves unless it's your entire neighborhood is covered in small twigs and leaves. Sometimes that could have still been an EF0 tornado, or maybe even just like 60 to 65-mile-per-hour winds. But any kind of damage we want to know about, obviously after the fact and when you're safe. We don't typically want you to try to estimate wind speed. I personally am terrible at it. I think it's 15 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, and it's like 10. I'm really bad at it. And I'm not going to say you guys are all bad at it too. I'm just going to assume that no one's real great at estimating it unless you're standing outside holding an anemometer, which I absolutely do not recommend in the middle of a severe storm. So do your best when it comes to describing wind as damage, or even if you want to tell us it's been really windy and the trees are, bending, sometimes that gives us an idea of how strong the winds were. All sorts of types of damage we want, and pictures are great. That usually helps us put reports to radar and also helps sort of verify what you're saying. Sometimes we'll see a really weak storm and we'll hear about a tree down. Maybe a picture is better in that kind of situation. I was on a storm survey once and we had a report of a large tree snapped. And so we kind of went chasing it. And it turns out it was just, about a 5 foot tall Bradford pear. Really was not a large tree snap. So in that case, it wasn't always the best picture to give. When you're describing tree damage, is it the branches? Is it the tree trunk? Try to give us a little bit of detail. Is it widespread? Is it uprooted? Just do whatever you can. Here's a game I like to play called Tornado or Severe. And I play this because most people, when they see a tree down, they just automatically assume it's a tornado. But remember, severe thunderstorms are anything over 58 miles an hour. 90 to 100-mile-per-hour winds can do widespread damage and sound like a train. So when you're looking at things, don't automatically assume it's a tornado. Just send us what it is. In this case, this was just a severe. How about this case? Now, again, I'm cheating a little bit. I'm not giving you guys all the information. You don't have radar in front of you. You didn't live through this, but I'm just trying to make a point that looking at a picture or seeing one tree down, you don't always know what it is. In this case, this was a severe, also actually pretty widespread damage in that forest. You can't really see what's behind that picture. This looks very similar to the other picture, just, on a bigger scale, but this was actually a tornado. And this is my favorite one. This is not a tornado. Trees can fall based on where their weight is. So if you've got a lot of weight in one side of the tree, it could twist like this. What's also important is that the leaves here were not touched. The branches were not touched. The house was not touched. The wall was not touched. There was basically very little outside of this one tree down. If you're estimating hail size, please try to give us a standard definition such as a coin. I don't know how big the marble you're using is. I don't know how big the blueberries you're using. I don't know how big the mothballs are that you are using. So try to give us a description that we all would know. Nickel, quarter, half dollar, ping pong, something standard. Flooding is a very difficult one to report. We will usually ask you a lot of follow-up questions about flooding. And that's because typically the reports we get are, oh my God, there's water everywhere. There's water on the roads. There's water standing. There's water rushing. Well, water on the roads after a heavy thunderstorm is to be expected. We want to know, is this starting to become life-threatening? Is it starting to get into houses? Is it rapidly rising? Is it rapidly moving? Is there 6 to 12 inches of water? Is it still raining? I had a situation once where I got a call about a downtown area that was flooded and people were trapped and water rescues were happening. And it sounded like a real bad situation. In the end, there was only about 3 inches of water on the road standing, and people just didn't want to get out of the car and get their socks wet. So that's why we're going to follow up with a lot of flooding questions. But the same thing with any other reports. We need location, we need landmarks, and we need what happened. When you're submitting pictures to us, make sure you're watching out for fake pictures. If you took the picture yourself, obviously that's not fake. But if someone sent you the picture, just be wary of where that came from. Here's another good one. That's a real picture. A lot of supercells in the Midwest look like this. Not so real for New York City. Also not so real. So here's an example of somebody sending us a funnel cloud, and a quick Google search told us this was actually from 2017. We had one where a news agency had posted a stock photo of a tornado that was about 10 years old, and somebody had seen that picture and sent it to somebody else and said, here's the tornado you were in. And then that person posted the tornado picture and tagged us and said, here was the tornado I was in, and it was not a real picture. So just be kind of wary of that when you get reports from other people. So here's two good reports. Well, not two good reports, one good report. The first one, I'm calling to report a severe thunderstorm. It was windy, there was lightning and heavy rain. The second one, we just had a severe thunderstorm move through Thomasville, several large trees down, and quarter-size hail. So which one of these is better? I hope everybody picked number two. For one, it's got a location in it. I don't know where your neighborhood is in caller number one. Secondly, we do not issue severe thunderstorms for lightning and heavy rain. So just saying it was windy with lightning and heavy rain doesn't really help me, but telling me there were several large trees down and quarter-size hail is a good report. In the severe thunderstorm, they talked a little bit about SCUD clouds. I'm just going to talk real quickly about it again because people get fooled a lot, including myself, with SCUD clouds and funnel clouds. SCUD clouds typically are very ragged like this. They don't look like they're attached to the cloud base. They're not typically rotating, and they kind of just move along with the clouds. They're not really persistent. Versus wall clouds and funnel clouds are typically going to be rotating, very smooth. They look like a cone, the funnel clouds do. So just kind of keep an eye on this. Now, if you see something like this and you're not sure, it looks like it's persisting, it looks kind of smooth, looks like it might be rotating, snap a picture, send it to us, let us know where it's at. Call me, because maybe this really is it is a wall cloud that you're seeing, and I'm looking at the storm and I'm like, okay, maybe this looks like a tornado potential. And then you tell me that could help me put me over the edge to maybe potentially issue a warning. So just call, describe what you're seeing, we'll take your report and we'll use it to how we need. So is this a funnel cloud or a tornado? This would be a funnel cloud because it's not a tornado till it touches the ground. And I don't know, maybe across the hill it's on the ground. So you could always say that you see a funnel or what you think is a funnel, but you're not sure if it's on the ground yet. How about this one? Now, this is kind of cheating also because I'm not giving you like a video, but this doesn't look like a funnel to me. Now, that's not to say it can't turn into one, or it may not be rotating, or maybe if you're 10 miles behind this picture, this is under a wall cloud, I don't know. So that's why we need more information a lot of times. How about this one? Wall cloud or shelf cloud? And we learned about shelf clouds also in the severe thunderstorm module. This is a shelf cloud. One of the reasons you know that is because it takes up almost the whole horizon. I've had people call and report wall clouds, and I maybe am not too sold that it's a wall cloud on that particular storm. And I'll say, well, how big is it? And they'll say, oh, it takes up my entire horizon. Probably a shelf cloud. How about this one? This is a very beautiful wall cloud that you probably may not see as perfectly down here as you would out in the middle of Kansas, which is where this was taken. But you can see it's much smoother. It's coming down from a connected base, and it's kind of pointing in one direction. It's angling. How about this one? Now, this is a little bit of a trick question, which I love trick questions. So that actually has a shelf and a wall cloud in it. Sometimes they're not as textbook as you would see out in the plains. This is actually from northern Alabama. So it doesn't look like you would see like in the previous picture, but both of them are actually there. How about this one? It's a pretty good funnel cloud. It may be kind of like a land spout, but it definitely looks like a funnel cloud, and I would report that, and it doesn't look like it's touched the ground. After a storm, you notice that your house lawn is littered by hailstones, and I, again, do not go out in the middle of the storm and pick up a hailstone. But which of these would you report if you see golf ball and tennis ball size hail? The answer would be tennis ball. You want to give us the largest hailstone. Sometimes we may even call you, well, when you call us, or we could call some trained spotters if we notice a storm goes over their house, and we may say, have you seen quarter size or golf ball size hail? We might kind of ask you and prompt you for some sizes. How about this one? Now, this is a tough one. I hope you're not in the car driving through this, but I would probably call and report that the creek behind my house is overspreading the road. I would try to estimate how deep it is. If you give me car tires, like water up to car tires, just remember a Prius tires are different than the Hummer tires. So I don't really know how deep it is. Now, I don't want you going out here with a ruler and measuring how deep it is. Just give us your best estimate and tell us if it looks like it's life-threatening. In this kind of situation, a car could easily be swept away in this, and that would be some information we'd want to know. This one could be a funnel. Without radar, without video, without it being less blurry, I'm not really sure. So it's just a good example of maybe you could send it to us and we could take a look with the radar. So you notice behind your backyard and your neighbor's yard after a storm that some of the branches look twisted. Ooh. What would you report? So the point of this is unless you saw a tornado, do not report that it is a tornado. We talked about that earlier. You would report trees uprooted, some minor fence damage. Just remember that trees can fall in different directions, the branches can twist, winds can swirl, and winds are loud. So just report damage instead of a severe thunderstorm or tornado. A thunderstorm's over your house and you see frequent lightning, what would you report? Nothing. We do not issue thunderstorm warnings based on lightning. It has to be 58 miles an hour or quarter-size hail or the potential for a tornado. You had a brief heavy downpour and it filled up one of your drainage ditches. What would you report? Nothing. Unless it's still raining and it's overflowing the ditch and could be a threat to life, we don't need to know about it. How do you report all this to us? I've given you all this great information. First and foremost, you can call us. If you have a tornado or extensive damage or something that is absolutely urgent, calling is the best way to get to us. We also have Twitter and Facebook. I will say between the two, Twitter is much better for us. If you tweet at us, we don't typically monitor the hashtags that often, but if you tweet at us at NWS Tallahassee, it will come up in our feed, and we usually have multiple people monitoring the feeds, and it will keep for later if you have a picture especially. So we really, really like Twitter in terms of social media. You can absolutely post on our Facebook wall or comment on any of the posts we do during severe weather. We typically will check that. It just may not get checked as quickly as a phone call or a tweet would. Also, if you go to our website, weather.gov/Tallahassee or weather.gov/TAE, or you could go to weather.gov and click on the Tallahassee location. You can do this submit a storm report under current hazards. You would fill out a form and that would get emailed to us, and you can also email pictures to us. I believe that is the end of my presentation. So I hope you all learned a little bit about storm spotting and how to report storm damage to the National Weather Service here in Tallahassee.